So just looking at some of the synths in Logic so that we can be a little bit more familiar with the different areas and parameters that we're faced with whenever we open an instrument. So a synthesizer works by having something called an oscillator. So this is where the sound is created. So we have different oscillator shapes. This has two oscillators. We have a blend dial here. So all of the first oscillator that we are choosing from this dial, all of the sub oscillator chosen from this dial, and a blend between the two. So the oscillator shapes, we have a square wave, we have a sawtooth, a triangle. We'll also come across a sine wave, which is a nice smooth curve. So if I just going to load a pad. So we have the oscillator. This generates the sound. So if I hit a key, so if I push the mix all the way to the first oscillator, if I move it all the way to the sub oscillator, and by blending the two, it allows you to dial in the type of sound that you want. Let's listen to the other oscillators. So these are both square waves, but the difference between them is these are evenly spaced, whereas this dial allows us to change the spacing, which is the width of the pulse. Let's have a listen to the sub oscillators. This one is noise. So the sound is coming this way. These two sound sources are being blended together. We then have an amount of distortion and drive. Which makes it sound kind of fatter and fuller. We've then got the filter section. So this high squeak that you can hear is the resonance. If I remove the resonance, the cutoff, basically like an EQ, removing frequencies. We've then got our amplifier section. So this is how loud we end up hearing the synth sound. So we have an upper and a lower range here. Coming down to the bottom section, glide, portamento. This is how long it takes the synth to slide from one note to another note. So with short, there's very, very little. If I make this long, we've then got the envelope. So this is how the sound is being shaped over time. Okay, so attack, how long it takes the sound to reach its loudest volume. So a longer attack is more of a swell. A shorter attack is more of an impact. The decay, how long it takes the sound to die to sustain level. If I bring the sustain level and the release down, if I bring the sustain up and the release up, so the envelope is a really, really good tool for blending and shaping a sound so that it fits with something else. We've then got LFO, or low frequency oscillator. So this is essentially a pulse. This is below the audible frequency range, so anywhere between 1 and 20 hertz. And this is a rhythmical pulse that then can be routed to another element on the synth to make some kind of movement or difference. So the routing section is here. So, for example, at the moment it's ticked on pitch. And my mod wheel, being the second wheel on your MIDI keyboard, I'm going to do it with these keys here. So 8 being the maximum modulation, 3 being no modulation. At the moment, the LFO is pointed to pitch. So if I play a note, you can hear it wobble. So if I press 8, that's my mod wheel fully engaged, and you can hear the movement. If I route this to cut off instead, so no modulation. You can see how the rate makes the LFO more intense, but it's also attached to our quantization values. So let's just quickly look at a different synth, because every synth now that you load, you should be able to identify the different sections so that then you can start to work with it. So oscillator 1, oscillator 2, oscillator 3. Here is your blend between. Here's your filter section. And we appear to have 2 filters and a blend between the 2. We've got distortion, we've got tuning, you've got envelopes, and you've got your LFO. So I'll show you the drum synth. So this is very, very basic. But what we have here, decay, so part of your envelope, pitch, tone, saturation, sweep is like a filter really. So similar parameters again, but very basic. And we have Alchemy. So Alchemy used to be owned by a third-party manufacturer that Apple bought, but we have nice filtering section to find out, or to narrow down the presets. We can go into simple mode. The advanced mode is where we get more information. So again, our sound sources, our filter section, our master output, our envelope, and the envelope has a new parameter here between the attack and the decay, which is a hold. So how long, it's like a sustain between the attack and the decay, holding that highest volume. We've got quick macros that are attached to different elements. We have an envelope down here again. We have an arpeggiator. And we have an effects section. So if I load Spacepad. So the nice thing about the envelope is you can see where it is. So I want to go one step further now. I'm just going to add an audio channel. I'm just going to import a loop. Okay. So, got my piano. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to drag it to here. So this is now going to create a new channel using the audio from here. So because we've just used Alchemy, I'm going to drop it onto Alchemy. So I need to mute this. What it's done is it's created a new Alchemy synth, and it has loaded the piano into the first sound source. Now I can come to one of the other sound sources and I can load different sounds, different shapes, so I can start to build my own synth with this. If I play this note now, so it's not the best example, but you can maybe see how you could then start to add different sounds together. Let me show you a different one. So I drag this to here and go quick sampler. It has assigned my piano part across my keyboard. So you'll notice we've got some synth parameters again. So we've got envelopes, we've got an LFO, we've got a filter section, and we've got an amp. We're also able to trim this down. So we can either have it as just the part that we want to play, we have key tracking on, so we can play any note now. We could use slice tool so that each key we press is playing a different part. So I'm going to get rid of this one because that doesn't work. It's in the middle. And that one. But now what I've got is the ability to kind of play around with this and experiment a little further. So whenever you open a synth, just take a minute to look at it, identify the different parameters, and then start to manipulate a preset so that you are creating your own sound, or at least becoming familiar with what each of the dials do. If you then look at the sampler, a lot of these tools will be familiar, and this will allow you to import any audio sample into your own sampler patch.